We are back. It's Tim Wilshire. This is From the Resort podcast, episode number 13. And yes, we haven't done an episode for the last couple of months. Lots of things have been happening in the last couple of months. Been travelling to Brisbane and back, but we're back, and hopefully this week we'll probably kick on with a few more episodes. And first episode today, back from a while, it's Phil Wilson, who's a current candidate to run for a vacancy here in the Queenstown Lakes and District Council. Phil is a retired lawyer, obviously very well known around the Queenstown Lakes area. Welcome along to the podcast, Phil.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much for being, a guest in this returning run. I guess where we like to start off these podcasts, Phil, is basically let us know whereabouts were you born and where did you sort of grow up early in life?
Okay. I was born in Dunedin, 1952, and spent my early years in the northeast valley area of Dunedin, but moved to Mosgiel as a teenager, and there was really my formative years that I like to think of.
So to tell the audience, where exactly is Mosgiel in relation to Dunedin?
Mosgiel's about 10 k's out of Dunedin. It's now really a suburb of Dunedin.
Yeah, it just grows.
Yes, it used to have its own council, Mosgiel Borough Council, but now it's all part of the Dunedin City Council, and there's a great motorway that connects the two, and a lot of people commute, as I did, and for a number of years, and it's a good place to grow up. I played rugby for the Tyree Rugby Club and had wonderful years playing there. The club's a very strong club in the Dunedin competition, still going well. It's won the banner a few times in the last few years, so very proud of that. And I moved to Queenstown in 1981.
So you're there for a while then?
Yes.
So what was family life like growing up? Did you have sort of many brothers and sisters, and what did your parents do?
Yes, my father was factory manager at a tannery in Green Island, and I have one brother and two sisters, and we used to holiday in Queenstown quite regularly. My father was a keen boatie, and he built his own boat, and we used to bring it up to Queenstown, and I spent a good part of my youth holidays here in Queenstown, and that kindled the desire to live here, and I was always keen to live here.
I think it does for a lot of people that, if obviously if you don't come from, if you're not born here, but you come here on holidays, you just want to keep coming back for more holidays until such time as one day you move here. Yes,
the lifestyle is great. I mean, you work hard, play hard in Queenstown, but there's plenty of playing to be done. There's sport and there's recreation, there's walks, there's biking. We all know what the wonderful attractions of the town are for those of us who are lucky enough to live here.
So rugby union, I guess.
Yes.
Growing up.
And a bit of playing up.
Yeah, a bit of playing up. Can you remember what, as a teenager, what your first job might have been? What was your first job that you had?
Well, I left school and went to university. My intention was to...
was it Otago? Or?
Yes, Otago, yeah. Study law, and I was into about my second year when I was offered a very attractive job running a home decorating store through a mutual friend of my parents, and he offered me $10,000 a year, and
for a lot of money back in those
for
days.
A poor student who just bought his first house and had one baby. It was a lot of money. So I took that job on the condition that I could study part-time. So he was a very interesting boss, Jack Mortius of Jack's Hardware, and we began a relationship that spanned 11 years. And during that time, I used to study, go to lectures before work, an 8 o'clock lecture or a lunchtime lecture or an after work lecture. So the two jobs worked quite well together, studying and working. And we eventually moved into the first Mitre 10 store in Dunedin, and we opened that in Anderson's Bay, and that took off. It really did take off, and that was the mid to late 70s. But by 80 and 81, I was hankering my boss to open a branch in Queenstown so that I could come here and run it. Had 3 children by that stage, and one day he came back to the firm and said, "I've been to Queenstown, I've found a shop, if you're still keen, we'll do it." So that was my first job in Queenstown, was running the first Mitre 10 shop here, which was just a little shop in Athol Street, where the Otago Daily Times and Mountain Scene offices are at the moment.
So just across the road, basically.
Yes, yes. I've spent a lot of my life in Athol Street, and that'll come to light as we go through this.
Yeah.
But, so that was 81, and that business expanded, and my boss bought a timber business down in an industrial place. So I ended up going down there and running that, and I've got a friend of mine, Bruce Hogan, to run the hardware store. So that was good times, very good times. Those are the days where, you could take a day off and sneak up the mountain and go skiing, and we really did have a great lifestyle. So so that was through to 86, and in 86 I really had a desire to go into business for myself, and although my first preference was to buy the Mitre 10 store off Jack, that didn't quite eventuate, and so I went into business with Alan Brown, who's still in town, and Jack Enright, who had an electronics store just through the alleyway, so backing onto Athol Street, as I mentioned, and that little alleyway that joins the car park there.
I think, the 80s, electronic stores were quite big in the 80s, weren't they?
Yes, it was a real growth period. Compact discs and video recorders and all those.
Fixing TVs.
Yes, fixing TVs. And then we branched into whiteware as well. And opened a video shop as well for
a video shop.
Video
that was big too.
Rentals, yes. So we had quite a stretch of Camp Street from the alleyway through to where it's just being refurbished to become a McDonald's. And on the other side of the alleyway, I opened a little business called Wilson's Homeware, and so that ran along separately to the electrical business, but it was.
Was it just
a nice
the homeware, the sort of homeware back then? Is it sort of reminiscent of what are we sort of talking about specifically? What sort of homeware are you selling?
Kitchenware, glassware, plastics. Those sort of things. It's only a fairly small store. It's the crystals shop at the moment, so you can picture that. Not a very big store, but it complemented the business we had on the other side of the alleyway. And then in the late 80s we got into mobile phones, and of course we all know how that business took off. And in the early 90s we made a decision to close down the electrical side of the business, whiteware and brown goods, mainly because there was huge competition coming from the big discounters, likes of Loomings and Smith City and the large stores, and they were knocking us about. So the independent retailer in that business was struggling. but the mobile phone business was going exceptionally well. So it was my intention to carry on with that and the homeware store. And while we were having a closing down sale for the appliance court store, as it was known, I raced across to McDonald's on the ground floor of O'Connell's to get a quick bite to eat. And who should tap me on the shoulder but Walter Rutherford, a partner in Anderson Lloyd, a law firm. And Walter said, what are you going to be doing if you're shutting down the electrical business? And I said, oh, well, I'll concentrate on mobile phones and things like that. And he said, well, what about coming and practicing law? And you could have knocked me over with a feather. I had actually qualified in 83 and got my degree, but I really did enjoy the retail side of things, so I hadn't made moves to get into law. And by that stage, we had a fairly hefty mortgage and 5 children. We'd had 2 more by that stage. Wow. So it's not sort of changing career at age 40 isn't sort of something you take lightly. So I pondered over this for a couple of days, rang Walter and asked him if he was having me on. No, he said, I'm serious. So one thing led to another, and I began working for Anderson Lloyd in 1993. We had a small office in the mall on the first floor of just next to what was the Britannia restaurant in those days. So thoroughly enjoyed that. By that stage I was on council. I stood for council in 92 and remained on council to 95. However, in our law office of it's only about 5 lawyers. Another partner in Anderson Lloyd was also on council. That's Warwick Goldsmith. And with 2 of us out of the office so much, in those days we were writing the district plan and there was meeting after meeting after meeting. So I soon learned from the partnership that they'd be quite happy if I didn't stand at the next election. So I opted not to and carried on at Anderson Lloyd until 2002, when I had a chat to Alan Harper, a partner in Arthur Watson Savage, as AWS was known in those days. And he told me they were keen to open an office in Queenstown. And having opened hardware stores before and setting them up, I thought, well, here's a nice challenge that I could really take by the throat and give it a good crack. So I took the position with Arthur Watson Savage as a partner in the Queenstown office, which we also opened in Athol Street. So for a small street in a relatively small town as it was, Athol Street's played a big part in my life. So we opened an office in Athol Street, and that was 2002. And then in 2005, when the building we're in now, the Forge building, was being built, we took a lease of offices on the second floor there.
So the Forge building that we're in right here, right now, how long has this been here for, this building?
It's about 15 years coming up.
Yeah, it's about 5 or 6, 2005, 2006.
Yes, or maybe 2004, 2005. I think we were well in here in 2005. So,
okay.
Yes, very comfortable offices, as
Yep.
you can see.
Yeah.
So, no, we've been here ever since, and I reached 65 in 2018, roughly, and stayed on till I retired last year
Yep.
in 2020.
So with the law, your law career, did you sort of specialise in anything in particular, or is it just sort of what was your, I guess, part of law that you liked the most?
Yes, well, Queenstown being Queenstown and being a commercial town,
Yep.
with so many self-employed people and property, of course,
Yes.
features highly. The law practice that we developed, both at Anderson Lloyd, I might add as well, and AWS, is really a commercial practice, is what you'd generally call it. I did a bit of court work in the early days, but didn't specialise, and then I made an option not to continue with court work, leave that to the specialists, and continue with the commercial side of law. So we do a lot of company, corporate, commercial type work, business lending, leasing, a lot of small business work in Queenstown, and property. Especially, subdivisions and the buying and selling of property, of course, is very common. So, yes, we had a good commercial practice here.
Mm. Now, I sort of read a bit, and I think what sort of sticks out a little bit about your career going from retail into law and all the different stuff there is that you obviously present yourself well and you obviously got some sort of sales skills. You can able to communicate with people, and you're able to sort of be able to, I guess, deal with anybody at any different level. So, how did that sort of going in your law career? Did you obviously meet a lot of people around the town and obviously know everything what was going on, being a small town like Queenstown?
Yes. The experience I gained through retailing did stand me in good stead for my law career. I might add too that my legal knowledge stood me in very good stead when I was retailing as well.
Yeah.
So the beauty of a law degree is that it does teach you a lot of different aspects of business. So when I got into law, I found that people who had been buying in fridges and washing machines and videos and things like that off me came to me. And obviously there was an element of trust there, and yes. I ended up being their lawyer, and it was a very, very satisfying part of my career. When you walk down the street and people say, "Oh, that TV you sold me still going. It's a bloody great TV." And, "Oh, by the way, might be time for me to do my will." The two meshed nicely, and Queenstown was just the right sort of size to do that. I don't imagine it would work so well in a big city, but in Queenstown it was only 5,000 people tops, I think, in the 80s. It did work well, and you felt like you knew most people in town, and they knew you, and if you had their trust, then you could just about do anything for them. Yeah,
so I guess you're obviously entrusted to sort of open up the office here, AWS, as I said, back 17 years ago, or whatever it was, 18 years ago. I guess, how did you sort of go about building a team here in Queenstown like that? Because obviously you're starting out, you obviously know a few people, but what's the sort of process you sort of went through to, I guess, build things up over the years here? But obviously until you retired. But
yes, yeah. Well, for a start, there was just myself and the receptionist.
Yeah.
And then one of the legal execs who had left Anderson Lloyd before I left actually approached me and said, "Do you need a legal exec?" Oh, yes, definitely. So Kay Edwards joined us. And then Daryl Gunn, who wanted to specialise in immigration, he joined us, and we had the advantage of having the backup of a fairly large office in Invercargill, the Arthur Watson Savage mothership, as we refer to the firm in Invercargill, being head office. And so we had people, lawyers, some newly qualified, etc., who had done some time down there, and then they would come up and join us in Queenstown. So it wasn't too difficult to get staff through those means. And so we built up a really good team. The team now sits at around 10, I think.
Yep.
It's a great practice, and pretty well respected law firm in Queenstown.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, fairly well known. If you obviously know anybody, that's for sure. So I guess one of the things that we obviously met for the first time last week at a charity auction, which was run by the Queenstown Rotary Club, which I've been a member of since last September when I moved. But obviously, you're sort of looking at going back into the council. Tell us a bit about obviously retirement late last year. After we're still in a sort of a different situation with the pandemic, and then deciding is a vacant seat available. Tell me about the council thing.
Right. Well, as far as retirement goes, the lockdown that we had in March, April, May last year was a good practice for me for retirement, and for Ella and I to realise what it's like to be under each other's feet, so to speak, all day, every day. But I really enjoyed it, and so that clinched the decision to definitely retire. And then we got through the start of this year, and when I heard John McDonald was unfortunately retiring, and I have a lot of respect for John and the work he's done on the council, I was very sorry to see him retiring, and I had thoughts of standing at the next full election anyway. So when the possibility of a by-election came up, I pricked my ears up, made some inquiries, and was very delighted to be nominated by Ian Edgar and Kay Parker. So I decided I would run and give it a crack. I've had a long history of service to the community through the Lions.
You were president of the Lions Club at one point.
I was, yes, yeah. The Lions, been in Lions now for about 38 years. The Rugby Club, St Joseph's School and Church, the Fire Brigade.
Have you seen the new facility?
Yes, fantastic.
Oh, isn't it good?
The list goes on, and I was very proud to receive a Heart of the Districts award from Vanessa Van Uden when she was mayor, and that's great. But I've always wanted to get back to council, having been there in the 90s. It wasn't an option really when I was working full time. I just couldn't have done justice to both. So I've left it till now. I have the time, I have the experience, and I believe I have the skills to offer good governance on this council.
Definitely. So tell us about when is the by-election? Is there an actual date that's set?
Right.
Or?
It's a postal vote. And
so it runs on a postal vote?
Yes.
Yep.
Papers come out on the 20th of May.
Yep.
So it's only a bit over a week away.
Yeah.
And everyone should have their papers by the 25th of May. It closes on the 11th of June, so all votes need to be back to the council by the 11th of June, and the election result will be announced on the 16th of June.
Yeah. And so how many it's obviously one position we're talking about,
yes.
And how many candidates are going for it?
Well, on the voting paper you'll see 3 candidates,
Yep.
but Emily Rutherford has decided not to proceed, but she cannot actually withdraw. Once you've put your nomination in,
Yeah.
and it's been approved, you can't withdraw. So Emily's name will be on the paper along with myself and Esther Whitehead. But Emily has said that she won't take the job even if she did get it. So basically it's a 2-horse race between myself and Esther Whitehead.
Okay. Well, certainly I hope that all goes well, and I do hope you obviously get in.
Thank you.
Obviously, but you've obviously got this in mind, and made a big effort to be able to. It's obviously a big responsibility to be able to take this now after your storied career. So obviously Queenstown is just one of those places that it's just beautiful. And obviously we say this a lot. How beautiful the place is, and it's a bit of a small town, and you've had the tourists before. What are the activities that you enjoy the most, or what are the things that you enjoy the most about Queenstown or this area in particular?
Well, as I mentioned early on, it's a wonderful lifestyle. Whether you enjoy golf or whether you enjoy hiking or skiing or boating or fishing, it's just about nothing you can't do here. My main pastimes outside of work, family plays a big part of that.
Big family.
As you can imagine, with 5 children and now 6 grandchildren. But boating and fishing, as I mentioned also earlier, my father used to bring me up here with his boat, and we always loved boating on Lake Wakatip and fishing, and so that still plays a major part in my recreational pursuits, water skiing and
so you still do water skiing?
Those sort of things, yes.
Wow.
Yes, very limited these days. I like to drive the boat more.
Yeah, I would too, yeah.
And have the grandchildren on behind, so that's all good fun. But my other time is, Lions takes up a bit of time. It's great.
So how many, with the Lions Club, how many sort of members have you got?
There's about 40 members.
40, okay,
yes.
Still decent. Yeah,
yes.
Very decent.
Yes, yeah. It is. It's a good club, and I've been in it for many years. And in fact, we're having our 50th anniversary this year. So if there's any...
Is there a date claimer for that?
Past Lions, yes, I think it's the 6th of November.
Okay.
It's our 50th anniversary, and if there's any past Lions listening, we'd love to hear from them. Get in touch with myself or Charlie Reid, or just look up Lions Queenstown and make contact would be great. But I know there are a lot of guys around Queenstown who are past members of Lions.
So 5 children, have they do they all still live close by, or any of them moved away from the South Island?
Yes. The eldest and the youngest still live here.
Yep.
Amy, my eldest daughter, she works for Jim Bolt, the mayor, funnily enough.
There you go.
And she is president of Arrowtown Rugby Club, which is a bit of family rivalry, given that I'm past president of Wakatipu Rugby Club. And she's recently been elected to the Otago Rugby Union as a director. to provide a bit of input there. So that's very good. My second daughter, Lauren, is a teacher at Columba College in Dunedin, and in fact, more than just a teacher, she's a head of senior school there, so she's got a fairly big job.
Yep.
And she's a past assistant coach of the Steel netball team, so she's had a very busy life with netball and 2 teenage children who play all sorts of sports, so they're a busy household. My eldest son Tim, he lives in Auckland,
yep.
and he's still playing cricket. He plays for Cornwall up there and has been club captain for a number of years. The next boy, Reed, he lives in Hong Kong. He and his wife are PE teachers, and they've been in Hong Kong for about 7 years, and we haven't seen much of them, of course, over the last 18 months. It's been pretty hard, but we keep in touch regularly with FaceTime and all those wonderful electronic devices that we can see the grandchildren, and you almost feel like you're there. And we're hoping that the restrictions due to COVID will be relaxed in time for them to come out for Christmas. And then my youngest, Quinn, is still here. He's got the Paraflight business, which operates off the end of the wharf, the main town pier. And he and his business partner run that business, and they've got a good little business, 7 days a week, weather permitting, and they've managed to keep their heads above water, well above, being a Paraflight, throughout the COVID crisis, and they're going quite well. So very proud of them all.
No, you sound like you're very proud of all the children, and it just gives you, I guess, a bit of a picture of 5 different kids, and most of the 3 of them are still on the South Island, one guy in Auckland and one up in Hong Kong. So it's good sort of, I guess, diverse. You got enough of them close by as well. Makes it. I'm glad that sort of this, certainly that you got some close by, which is really, really good.
Yes, yes, definitely. Family is very important, and we do love keeping in touch with each other. Yeah, especially when Wakata plays Arrowtown. We stand on different sides of the paddock, but it's the game that matters. So proud to say that Wakata won the last encounter.
Fair enough. What else? Any other sort of hobbies or anything else that you'd like the audience to know about what you get up to? Or sort of covered off on a fair bit of ground?
Anyone who knows me knows that one of my passions, my dear wife Ella, is horse racing. And
yes, horse racing. I've read about that. Yes.
Thoroughbred racing in particular. So I'm lucky enough to own shares in 2 local gallopers. When I say local, they're owned locally and trained near Dunedin, Wingatui track, and they've given us a lot of thrills. With these ones, we've won about 5 races, and this winter coming up, because they're winter gallopers, they like it wet. We hope to win a few more. So their names are Slammer and Shaker. And you might say, what are those names? How do you get names like that? But they're out of a mare called Agavero, which is a brand of tequila. So Tequila Slammer.
Yeah.
And then when Shaker, who's a full brother, was foaled, and we tried to think of a name, we said, well, we should keep that theme going, so we called him Shaker. So Slammer and Shaker, they're very fond family pets. A little bit more expensive, but than a dog or a cat, but they're a lot of fun. And the 4 of us who've got shares in them travel round to the races, Christchurch South, and have a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what do you think the future of the Queensland Lakes District actually looks like going forward? Let's say, where do you think this what this place looks like in 10 years' time, or the next decade.
Right.
I mean, is it going to still be a tourism destination, do you think, or do you think something else will happen?
It will come back, Tim. It will come back. How long it will take, I don't know. But now we have the opportunity to reset, and we really should take stock of where we were at before COVID and where we want to be post-COVID. And I spent time as a director of Destination Queenstown, and when I stepped down from that board, I made a recommendation to the incoming board that DQ starts looking at destination management as opposed to just development, not just marketing. Do we need more and more and more tourists? No. I think we need tourists that we do get. We need to ensure that they have an excellent experience. And, the government has come to the council's aid and given us money for the bypass road, the arterial route, and the upgrade of the CBD in Queenstown. And that will all help. And I'm really keen to push destination management as opposed to just destination marketing. The airport is a hot topic, and I'm a firm believer that the airport should stay where it is. The local community has spoken loudly and clearly in that it does not want any increase in the air noise boundaries, and I support that. I made the same submission myself. So we've got to learn to cope with the airport traffic, air traffic, and of course road traffic as well, in a better way, and ensure that the Queenstown is not only a wonderful resort to visit, but it's a wonderful place to live as well.
So some stuff that might be coming in the future. What do you think about the Lakeview development?
Right.
I think it's called the Lakeview, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
That's the old Queenstown camping ground on the top of Man Street. It's more development. It's going to be shops, houses, a real mixture of place, and it's pushing the CBD out a bit further. Yeah, it's about the only direction it can go in is up there. It's a constrained area and surrounded by housing, but the council has seen fit to sell off part of the camping ground and liquidate that. They've attracted a pretty reputable developer from Australia, and I look forward to that development with interest. Having said that, I am also a very firm believer in retaining camping grounds. So very pleased to see that part of the camping ground is being retained, and very pleased to see that the camp at Frankton will be returned to being a camping ground rather than permanent houses as we've seen there for quite a few years. So look forward with great deal of interest, and of course I'd love to get on council to be part of that decision-making body regarding what we do in the future and what the next 10 years should look like. But yes, my main thing is destination management and making this, as I say, wonderful place to visit and a wonderful place to live.
No, definitely. That's certainly it's good to see some good clear goals there, for getting on the council and what you want to achieve, during that tenure. When obviously wish you all the best with that.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. If there's anything else that you wanted to cover off on, I think that's probably a good opportunity to, if we missed some ground somewhere, I think we covered off pretty well what has been a very, I guess, storied career, lots of different experiences, the retail, the law, council, and council again, mobile phones, electronics, Mitre 10. If you were to think, one question I probably should ask is, you've spoken about probably quite a few different people, I guess, in this, that you've sort of looked at different opportunities at different times. What stands out the most to you as a person that you looked up to as a mentor or something like that growing up?
The person that readily comes to mind is the person who got me into law, Walter Rutherford.
Yeah.
I used to, and still do, refer to him as my mentor.
Yes.
An excellent man, an excellent lawyer, and a very good friend. And he attended my retirement party, and I said to him, "You were first on the list." So yes, if I had to put it in a nutshell, Walter is the man that.
He's still local at the moment, or
he lives between here and Dunedin. He's got a place in Dunedin and a place here. So we see a little bit of him, and he's now retired as well. So I hope to see a bit more of him. So so that's a person who stands out, and. Yes, it's been a wonderful career, or mixture of careers.
Yeah, well, that makes it more interesting. I mean, doing the same thing for 40 or 50 years or whatever it is, it'd be a lot different. There might be some stories in there, no doubt, but having a different mix of experiences, that certainly is, makes for very interesting, things that happen. As far as travelling away from here, I mean, you've probably been to Hong Kong, so obviously, other parts of the world that stick out to you. Anything else that sort of sticks out as far as a travel destination for you? Well,
I haven't travelled a heck of a lot. Never did the OE as it's known, but I will say that we organised a trip in 2019, so thank God it was just pre-COVID, and we took 7 or 8 weeks in total, which incorporated a cruise. So friends of ours were keen to do a cruise, and we were keen to do a cruise, so the four of us decided we'd go to do a cruise. Then someone else found out about it and said, "Oh, we'd like to come." I said, "Oh, come along." But someone else come along. There was 27 of us on that cruise.
Wow, where did this cruise go?
So that was a fantastic experience. Sailed from Venice around the Mediterranean and ended up in Barcelona. So that as a travel experience would have to be the highlight. But we also had three weeks in the UK prior to that, and that was my first trip to the UK, and a couple of weeks in the Greek islands on the back end of the trip. So
that sounds like a really good trip.
It was, yeah.
I'm glad you got to do that.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah.
Excellent. No, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you for episode number 13. Today is the 11th of May 2021. This has been Phil Wilson, who we all wish all the best in the for that vacant seat on the council. Thank you very much for your time, Phil.
Thank you, Tim, for the opportunity to do this podcast with you.
And we'll get it out there, or share it to whatever networks. I might email you a copy of where you can find it online. Hopefully it might even be up. We'll be at 24 hours or so, it should be up. So
that'd be great.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.